Hello everyone. We are now here with our last in the series of ancient solfeggial frequencies and Pythagorean tuning. We're going to take one look again at the actual solfeggial frequencies, is what they're saying. This one, first one is the I believe it's the 396. This one would be the 417. This one is the 528, which is a C here. Somewhere in here is going to be, I believe it is the 639, and then 741, and then 852 up here. Again, these hertz can be based, since the tuning systems were so varied at that throughout history, we never know specifically which one was a C, which was a G, which was whatever at that point, because some of the tunings, especially in the 1800s, they're as much as a whole step off of what we're currently using. And depending on what part of the country or part of the world that you lived in, even towns had different tuning systems. People had to use different instruments to play depending on where they would go. Some instruments, people had to have 4 or 5 different instruments to play in different tuning systems, just because the tunings were not as strong, or instruments actually, let me correct myself here, instruments were not made that well, and so you have to have several instruments so that you could play in all the different keys, because keys did not work well together before equal temperament, which is the reason we have equal temperament. It made it possible to play in all 12 keys and to tune instruments like the keyboards, wind instruments, brass instruments. Instruments that couldn't change tuning are done in equal temperament simply because it makes them able to play in all of the major and minor keys. String instruments, vocalists, they can change the tuning, so it's not as big of a deal for them. But if you want to have string players with singers and wind players, you got to have some form of temperament. So there's no conspiracy that says that we've messed with our tuning. It all had to do with the ease of people being able to play together. As I tell my students, if you're using, you go in and you want a specific pipe measurement, we know what ½ inch is, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. You have standard measurements. So music eventually became standard. And A440 was used as early as the 1800s. And there are theories saying that Hitler might have done something in 1939. Well, we have instruments that were tuned to A440 in the late 1800s and the early 1900s in the United States and in England and across the world. So we're pretty sure that that is not true. Anyway, going with this again, let's take a look at this oot, which becomes do here. Again, look at the difference in the pitches and how far apart they are, whereas here they're either a whole step or a half step away. Now what I'm going to do is go to this physics site again. This is the one I want to look at. Here is just intonation, and this is based on our 440 concert pitch, so these numbers would change if you put it in 432 or 444 or 415, but the differences right here are going to be very similar. So you'll notice in equal temperament, a C, this is middle C, is going to be 261. The just scale would be 261, and we're just starting out with 261 there. So in the just scale, a C sharp is going to be 272 hertz, whereas this is 277. That's a difference of 4.64 cents. If you will notice, all of these are going to only be a maximum. This one is almost 5 cents, and that would be the B flat above middle C if you were doing it with the just scale. This is what we have tuned all the instruments to so that all of the keys can work together. This would be the just intonation. So if you're looking at the difference in the cents, you're not going to have any more than 4 cents difference. Okay, now let's go back and take a look at this tuning chart we have here. If you're looking for 4 cents difference, then all of these should be within any of these together. So let's say it could be between 432 and 444. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Anywhere between three of them. Okay, so feasibly, at least four of these pitches could work. If you see 396, 417, 528, and 741 could very easily work within either A442 tuning, 444, or A46 tuning, because all of these numbers would be fairly acceptable in that range. The only two that you're not going to find in there are the 639 and the 852. So we have a problem in the fact that you've got six pitches that are supposedly in the hymn to the St. John the Baptist, but two of them are in no tuning system that we know of. And we do know, again, that Guido of Arezzo, he was an Italian Benedictine monk. He was using Pythagorean tuning, which would be based on the just intonation. So these numbers are all going to be really close to what our current scale is. This is our current system, equal temperament. The just scale is over here, so you see there's not a lot of difference between the pitches. Okay, now let's go take a look at the hymn to the St. John to the Baptist. You will see here is ut or do. There is re. There's mi. Fa. Sol. And la. And I think what Guido did is he would put them, the ut and the re and the mi, the first two letters in red, so that his students would recognize that they were an ascending scale. Here we have C, D, E, F, G, A. Those notes are either going to be a whole step away from each other, or they're going to be a half step away. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half step. F to G is a whole step. G to A, or Sol to La, those are whole steps. Okay, now let's go back and take a look at, oops, wrong one. I need my mu score. Okay, here you've got a half step. That doesn't work. Here you've got a diminished fourth. Because remember, we need a whole step, half step, whole step, and a whole step. That's what you need for that hymn. So there's absolutely no way that any of these pitches could be any part of the hymn to St. John the Baptist. It's possibility that this could be do, that this would be fa, because they need to be four notes apart. Okay, so again, you need to have a whole step, and a whole step, and a half step, and a whole step, and a whole step. Because again, if you go look at, let me find this one again. Here's your scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And notice that the just scale, which would be very close to Pythagorean tuning, is not that far off from our current equal tempered scale. People who don't have great ears are probably not going to notice a difference. And you can do this in any concert pitch. If I changed it to A415, then these numbers would still be the same distance apart. The pitch, the frequencies would just be different. But you're still, the difference right here is still going to be the same between equal and just. Okay, so go back to hymn of St. John the Baptist. Again, here you've got ut, or what we now call do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and then ti and do were not added until later. And remember, Guido of Arezzo was a monk. He knew the chant repertoire. He came up with a system of musical notation which we still use today. So all of the music that was written down at the time of Guido, we know what it sounds like because he actually put it to sheet music. we have not changed anything in the way music sounds since the time of Guido. So this hymn can be sung exactly today the way Guido sang it way back in 1000 AD. The only difference is the concert pitch might change. The variation of this C could either be at the 415 concert pitch, the 432, 444. We don't know. We don't have any tuning forks that date back as far as Guido. You don't start seeing tuning forks until Bach's time, which is some 600 years later. So we don't know what their concert pitch was, but we do know that the distance between the notes is going to be very similar to what's here. It's just which C, which hertz are they actually singing C at. And we know that it can't be these because these don't fit within any scale that was used in Pythagorean tuning. Okay, so I think that pretty much takes care of discussing the solfeggial frequencies with Pythagoras. We will move on to another topic next time, but if you have any questions or comments, just feel free to post below. And anyone finds anything interesting, I'm always up for hearing new stuff. So thank you again for listening to this series, and we'll talk to you again soon.